Celeste has been one of the most popular speed games since its release. 2 years ago it got released and it has changed a lot in its speedrun history basically. So in today's video I'm going to talk about 5 big discoveries that happened during the past 2 years that changed the speedrun forever. My name is Flash177 and I hope you're excited for this video. Number 1. The Prologue cutscene skip. Many people know that to the current day you can skip the Prologue cutscene, so it makes the entire Prologue actually 15 seconds faster than it was originally. But what many people don't know is how the Prologue skip got discovered, how it got implemented into the game, and why it wasn't a thing from the beginning. So first of all, why is Prologue skip nowadays a thing? A runner called Crichter, a good friend of mine actually, when he was practicing Prologue for his blindfolded runs, he counted the jumps on the bridge, so he knows how often he has to jump when he plays blindfolded. And at the very end, he kind of frame perfectly got into the menu and was able to skip the cutscene. That cutscene skip actually was very different from the cutscene skip we know it nowadays, because it not only skipped the cutscene where the bird teaches you the dash, it also skipped the entire text, so it was even faster than the cutscene skip we know nowadays. So why was that such a huge deal? First of all, it was completely random and it was like probably frame perfect or close to frame perfect. So ridiculously, I want to say inconsistent. On the other hand, the developers were not that happy that you could skip that cutscene, and also not happy with the idea that if you want to go for world record or for a PB, you have to reset Prologue over and over and over until you get this frame perfect cutscene skip. So they came up with another idea. What they basically did is they made the Prologue cutscene skippable, but you only skip the cutscene where the bird teaches you how to dash. It doesn't skip the part of the text where the text says you can do this. The reason why they don't want to get rid of the message is because it really pushes the message of the game forward, and they want to leave that in the game as much as possible. But why didn't they introduce a Prologue skip from the very beginning? Because they knew the game is for speedrunners and they created it for speedrunners, so getting rid of a cutscene would make speedrunners, you know, more happier. Referring to Noel in the developer chat, he was saying, "We didn't want first time players to skip it by accident and not learn the dash. We liked that the run always said you can do this. When we made it skippable, we kept that." That basically is what the devs said. That's why they didn't introduce the cutscene skip in the first place. But after it got discovered that it's skippable on frame perfect, they went like, okay, now we have to implement a cutscene skip, otherwise the speedrun would become more fun, but they still want to, you know, make it as casual friendly as possible. It made the run automatically 15 seconds faster. 15 seconds is really a lot for such a short game, and you basically get it for free, so that's that. And yeah, it was a huge step towards getting more people through sub 30, I would say. It's like definitely just something that made this game faster, and how it got discovered and implemented into the game is actually quite a fun story. Number 2. Ultra dashes. To this day, ultra dashes are basically something very normal on high level, on top level, even on mediocre level. People try to implement ultra dashes into their run. But did you know that originally ultra dashes are technically a glitch and were not intended by the developers to be in the game? That's why I made it on this list. That's why I think it's a discovery and a mention worth. But what is an ultra dash? So basically, when you get hyper dash momentum, like we all know hyper dash, diagonal dashing on the ground, and then you jump and you get hyper dash speed. When you cancel that with an immediate down angle dash again, like you do a hyper dash jump and then you diagonal dash again, you gain more speed out of it and you technically reach ultra speed. That was not intended by the developers originally, but how they made Madeline's movement work and programmed it and coded it, it was like, you know, obvious that things like this could happen, because they don't give a limit to Madeline's speed, and they also said whenever you diagonal down dash, you gain speed. And obviously after a hyper dash you have already very high speed, and doing another down angle dash you gain more speed was like kinda obvious, but still, it was not originally intended by the developers. The person who originally discovered Ultra Dash is a guy called Devil Squirrel, He is a tester of Celeste, and I've talked with him a little bit, and he basically said when he was testing around with movement in TAS, he quickly discovered that if you do 2 hyper dashes in quick succession, you gain more speed than normally. He thought, okay, we have super dashes, we have hyper dashes, now let's call the next step an ultra dash. And that's boom, that's how it got created. Nowadays, it's a very, very basic tech every speedrunner needs to know and every speedrunner needs to utilize at some point. But originally, it was not intended, it was a discovery. It improves the run by a lot. In many rooms we use nowadays ultra strats to make the room like a few seconds faster. Over the run, it adds up to a whole nother level of time saves. So yeah, worth mentioning it here. Ultra dashes were not intended, but a big discovery for the Celeste speedrun. Number 3, Bastrop. Everybody nowadays knows that Bastrop is a huge thing in 5B, but how did Babai discover this trick in the first place, and how it changed the entire speedrun route? So here we go. First of all, Babai was the original developer or discoverer, is that how you say that, of that trick. When he was messing around in chapter 3, practicing his transition into a Shiro section, he discovered that at the first frames, when during a screen transition, you can wall jump, and when you do a very quick wall jump, you end up falling backwards from the way you came. And he was wondering, like, what the fuck is that? And so that's how Bastrop got originally created. How Bastrop got implemented into 5B is still like a little bit of a mystery to me. People say Demo James, and that's like confirmed, discovered the implementation of Bastrop into 5B. How he exactly discovered it, I have no idea. People say he probably was messing around with, practicing that room and then practicing the corner boost. And then at some point he probably thought, hey wait, there's this thing called Bastrop, let's see if we can do this here. And boom, he discovered it, and now we have Bastrop. So what is Bastrop and how it actually works? I have here a graphic by Daluke, who actually is very helpful by explaining this trick. So I will go right ahead and try to explain it with this graph, and then I will try to explain it with in-game footage. So what we can see here is there we have a -5 frame to a -1 frame window, and a 0 frame, 1 frame, and 2 frame window, or squares. -5 frames is too early. You have a -4 to -1 frame where you can buffer the jump. So during that time, when you hit the jump button, it will buffer into the frame 0 and frame 1. During frame 0 and frame 1, either of these you need to press jump, and by either frame 1 or frame 2, you need to release the jump button. So basically said, you have a 4 frame buffer window, you have a 2 frame window in which you need to jump, in where the jump is getting performed, either on frame 0 or frame 1, and then on frame 1 or frame 2 you need to release the jump button. So there's a bigger buffer window, but basically what it all comes down to is when you release the jump button. So we have a 2 frame window where we can release jump, otherwise the jump will be too big and we still land on top of the platform. That is something I will now show with the gameplay. So what we can see here is I'm right in front of the screen transition, and as we go into screen transition, it takes a certain amount of frames. I'm actually not sure how many frames, but 4 frames before we make the screen transition, I can start hitting the jump button, because then it buffers its way into the frame 0. If I hit jump on frame 4 and minus frame 4, minus frame 3 or later, I will perform a jump on frame 0. Frame 0 is the first frame in where we can perform an action after a screen transition. And then on frame 0, I do the jump, and on frame 1 or frame 2, I release already the jump button again, and then what ends up happening is the wall jump, I perform a wall jump here, was so small that we end up falling backwards from the way we came, even though there's a platform right on top of us. And the game doesn't allow you, or originally doesn't allow you to do this. The game doesn't know what to do now here. So you came from a way the game actually never expects you to come from. So now the game is confused and doesn't know what to do with you, because it actually has no idea from where you're coming, or it somewhat doesn't know it, because it never expects somebody to come from the top. So what the game actually thinks is, it takes your position and locates it to the next closest respawn position. And there are 2 respawn positions in this room. One is on the far left, where we originally came from in the beginning of this chapter, and one is on the far right, where we actually want to go to. And because the respawn on the right is a lot closer to us than the respawn on the left, the game actually just respawns you there, because that's the next closest respawn location the game can actually, things you came from. So because of that, we respawn at the end of the room and skip a bunch of rooms and key collection in this chapter, and makes the entire chapter a lot faster. And that's basically how Bastrop is getting performed. There's a lot to it, and I hope I explained it all right, but I feel like this should, everybody should understand it after this one. But that's basically how this trick works. Yeah, hope you understood it. This skip is very huge, and basically for every runner on a higher level, if you miss that trick, it's basically a reset because you lose 12 seconds. It's a huge time loss for such a precise trick. But how it changed the entire speedrun route basically is, people were before running 5B with the corner boost strat, which is like very risky, but was fun for them and was also very fast. It's still faster than Bastrop, but after Bastrop got discovered and implemented into 5B, basically every runner was starting to grind and learn 5B because it was way faster than 5A. This discovery and the implementation of making 5B popular saved the run by like 20 to 30 seconds, referring to top level. So for every mediocre or higher level runner who's not at the very top yet, if you practice 5B a lot and it's a ton faster than your 5A, it's definitely worth a shot. And yeah, it made the entire speedrun a lot faster. Also another reason why sub 30 became a lot easier than it was maybe a year ago. Number 4, Archie. Archie is basically on today's standards in the speedrun scene a meme. It is very, very important that you do Archie, but it actually does very little. It still is worth a mention here in this video in my opinion, because of how high of a status Archie became. Everybody loves Archie, so yeah, let's dive into this. First of all, many of you probably don't know Archie, so I will explain it. And if you want to watch a tutorial to this, there is now on the info mark a link to my tutorial. I've made a tutorial for Archie that explains it in far more detail. But basically what you do is you enter a bubble in crouch state, and what that does is that your hitbox is getting shifted a little bit, so you can cross certain corners in a way you normally would not be able to. Basically what you see in this footage right now is, if you do Archie, you can diagonal dash with that bubble right here to save a little bit of time. If you don't do Archie, like entering the bubble in a crouched state, you end up dying to the spikes when you try to diagonal dash. But what is Archie and how did it get discovered? So basically Archie is a bird from Not Kane, a very good friend of Phoenix. Phoenix was the discoverer of Archie, and he was like, how should I name this trick? And then he thought of this bird, and he wants to name the trick after Archie, the bird of his friend. So yeah, that's basically how it ended up being a thing. But how did he discover it in the first place? So referring to Phoenix, I asked him on Discord how he discovered it, and he said to me he basically discovered it after misdashing out of the bubble after a grounded ultra into it, or into the room. And what that means is, he was in a crouch state because of an ultra. You know, when an ultra dash, you dash into the ground again, so the game recognizes it as a crouch state. And then he got into the bubble, and he misdashed diagonally, and he didn't die, and he was very confused. And after a little bit of testing, he discovered how the trick works, that you have to be crouched, otherwise you will die to the spikes. And that's basically how Archie became a thing. Nowadays, Archie is only used in 4A and in 5A. To my information, but still people love Archie, people love this bird. I made a tutorial for it because the trick is like very underutilized, so check out the tutorial, it's also in the video description. That's Archie, that's how it got discovered. It's a thing nowadays. It's weird how these things get discovered. It's all by accident basically, so every speedrunner can discover a huge skip and be famous or name a trick after him. It's really cool actually. Number 5, Demo Dash. Demo dash is probably the biggest discovery in the Celeste history of speedrunning. Because of that, I made it the final point of this video. Demo James was the discoverer of this trick, and he discovered it originally in chapter 3. When he was looking in debug menu, he discovered that walls like this Dust Bunny wall and spike walls throughout the entire game have collision built-in circles. And between these circles there are gaps. In combination with a crouched mid-air dash called Demo Dash, named after Demo James, we can dash through these walls. But how exactly does it work? You can dash normally in all 8 directions, so in order to do a crouch dash, you cannot just hold down, because then you do a downwards dash. What you need to do is you hit the down key, release the down key, and for the next 4 frames, when you do press the dash button, without any D-pad input, you end up dashing in the direction you're facing, but in a crouch state, which shrinkens your size from 8 pixels down to 4 pixels. 4 pixels is exactly how big the gaps in between these circles are in every hit wall, or in every hitbox wall. So in this wall, you can imagine it like little circles, and in between these circles there are 4 pixel gaps, and if we hit that 4 pixel gap and do a crouch dash or a demo dash, we end up dashing through the wall. And we can do this basically with every spike wall in the game, because every spike wall in the game has these circles. If you don't understand what I mean by these circles, go watch the video now on the info card or in the description. It is a video which shows Demo Dash performed in debug menu. Debug menu shows you all hitboxes and the hitbox of Madeline. You see how exactly it looks like. It's a nice video, it has 18 views, so nobody really saw it. So yeah, go check out the video if you don't understand what I just said about these circles and dashing through the wall. After this discovery, basically everybody needed to learn this trick. People started to evolve and improve that trick. How they improved it is with a technique called demo button, and this entire story, or the entire story behind the demo dash improvement and what else it led to, is something I will cover in another video, because otherwise it will make this video far too long. And that's it for this video. I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed this little journey through all the big speedrun discoveries in the Celeste history in this last 2 years. This game is now out for 2 years, and we have found so many things, not only movement wise but also, glitched wise. These 5 things, they might seem not as that much, but they really are. They really improved the speedrun by so much. People underestimate that. Yeah, it's like that's the story of speedrunning. There's another trick I didn't mention in this video, which is called menu storage. That's also another video, because it didn't change the speedrun, because the speedrun community basically denied it. And that's also something I will make in the future. So if you want to learn more about Celeste discoveries or glitches or its speedrun basically, go give this channel a subscribe. It will help me out a lot. I really appreciate that. Besides that, if you want to support me more for whatever reason, then go check out my Twitch channel. I stream 3 times per week. That's all I'm asking for basically. But if you enjoyed that video and that's all, then I'm happy too. So hope you enjoyed that video. Hope you learned something new, and see you next time when it's time to talk about Celeste again. Bye.